We're in northeastern Oklahoma, not too far away from the Arkansas River. At the end of the Trail of Tears, this is the Wild Wild West. In the mid-70s, they built a track here, very suited to these rolling hills. Now, this is a very technical track. Lots of people call it their favorite track at all. And today, we're here to celebrate round number 3. This is Dodge Viper Cup.
Hi everybody and welcome to the Frontier. I'm Greg Creamer along with Tom Natchew. We're at Hallett Motor Racing Circuit for round 3 of the Dodge Viper Cup. Jennings, Oklahoma, about 35 miles west of Tulsa. This very challenging track. Let's take a look at qualifying. The front row, the 2 points leaders. Ryan Shims, second in the points coming in. Ben Keating leading it. Richie Hearn, the former IndyCar driver, and Keith Burgess make up row 2. Row 3, AJ Morgan and Michael Von Quillick. We go to row 4 and it's Jim Stout and Kurt Solberger. And driving the Auto Week machine is going to be in row 5, Stephen Cole Smith and Connie Bogan. And in row 6, it is Portia Belows, who did not score a qualifying time, but will be starting at the back of the pack. Good looking grid, Tom.
It really is, and you know, weather always plays a factor. This time we're trying to manage heat. From the standing start, naturally these Michelin tires hook right up, and look at the start that Ben Keating gets drawing up alongside the 67 car Shims.
Yeah, Shims just didn't quite get it moving. There's Keating. You just saw the nose. Shims, though, on the inside as we hop on board with Keating, and Shims is through and into the early lead. Unique feature of this track, you can run it counterclockwise or clockwise. Today we're running it counterclockwise. Either way, it's technical, it's challenging.
Very, very challenging, and a lot of these drivers, after coming through a day of practice, are saying just exactly that. There's more speed in here, you just have to learn the nuances. Ryan Shims, a very quick study.
Boy, is he out front and early. There's Keating tucked into second. But Ryan Shims out front looking strong. Keating just a little sideways there. And being out front here, not only is it just pleasant in terms of having nice clean track in front of you, but clean air in this 105-degree heat into that radiator. That's huge.
It's an excellent point, Greg. You know, the guys from Dodge Engineering were at the drivers' meeting and they said, hop out as often as you can, because if you stay tucked in like Ben Keating is right now, you're going to run into overheating problems.
Good battling back in the pack just a little bit, watching this beautiful field come through, these challenging corners here at Hallett Motor Racing Circuit. Back to that lead battle, Shims and Keating closing right back up again. Boy, he is all over the back. He got a great run out of the final turn and onto the front straight. Not quite close enough. Shims able to get the power down in that big Viper acr-x and able to draw away.
You know, they're reprising their battle from round number 2 back at Virginia International Raceway. The two of them went hammer and tong for a bunch of laps here, and they've managed to break away from the rest of the pack just a little bit to give their battle a little bit of room to evolve.
Well, not exactly battling at this point in terms of getting inside cut and thrust. The two of them just have their heads down, and that is indeed allowing them to draw away from Burgess, who did get around Hearn on the start. He was able to leapfrog into third. Hearn just wasn't quite able to get it to hook up on that standing start, and Burgess able to get in front. There comes Burgess, that beautiful purple Viper. Right behind him is Richie Hearn, and then the rest of the pack back up front in this battle. Shims looks to be pretty much in control over Keating at this point, Tom.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of urgency built in as well. And owing to the weather, this race has been shortened by the organizers to 22 minutes. Now, predictively, we're thinking that's going to be 8 or 9 laps, but you never know whether yellow comes in or whatever plays. So Richie Hearn back there does look racy. He's going to make his move. He's going to have to make it soon.
We've been talking about the heat and how it affects the cars with the radiator and the airflow, but same applies for the drivers, doesn't it?
Well, absolutely. You know, these guys have been taking a beating all weekend long. Very tough to get through a whole session. There's your leaders as we go to first break. Ryan Shims, Ben Keating, Keith Burgess, Richie Hearn, and the newcomer AJ Morgan, your leaders.
Unique group of spectators observing the Dodge Viper Cup here at the beautiful Hallett Motor Racing Circuit. Look at the eyes on that one. I think you're compelled to put on a good show with that look.
You don't want to make those guys angry. I assure you they're further away from the track than they look, but they look like they're right up next to it. Keith Verge's got a handful here with a newly motivated Richie Hearn as we follow this battle around these very technical corners. Richie Hearn's only got about 2 or 3 places he can actually make the pass, but that doesn't mean he can't annoy Verges for a little while.
Well, and one of the things with this track, 80 feet of elevation change, and while that is not a lot, it all comes down to where it happens, and that is what makes this track very, very challenging. On board now with Richie Hearn, running in the 4th spot, and that is Verges right in front. Hearn doing everything he can at this point. You can see Verges a little bit off of the apex there, and Hearn just hoping to rattle him just a little bit.
And coming into the passing zone now, you saw the first battle that we saw in today's race between the first 2 cars, Shims and Keating, started here and ended up at the end of the 2nd bend. So this is what Hearn's trying to do now, set him up. And it doesn't look like he's going to get there this time, Greg.
Verges, 3rd in the points, coming in with a 4th and a 3rd in the opening 2 rounds at VIR. Richie Hearn, of course, one of the guest celebrity drivers, if you will. And right now, Verges doing a beautiful job to keep that Viper up front of Richie Hearn, who obviously, you take a look at his credentials, a former Pro Atlantic champion, but that time Verges just a little bit slow in the braking zone, and Hearn attacked big time and looked like he may have floated offline just a little bit, but Hearn actually had to check up enough not to get into the bag of Verges, and that sort of blunted his ability really to take advantage of that opportunity.
You're talking about his credentials. Richie Hearn, first of all, an engine in front, that's kind of unique for his career, and one this big with this much power, you know, probably meets or exceeds anything he's ever driven in an Indy car or an Atlantic car.
But even so, it didn't take Richie long to learn to give it a bit of welly. Look at that, dropping the right rear tire into the dust. We checked in with him a bit earlier.
You know, they were looking for a celebrity driver, so he asked me if I'd come, and I said I'd race lawnmowers if you asked me to. So I've actually been here. I raced a go-kart here back in the mid-'80s, a long time ago, and been here a couple times with my own racing team testing, so I kind of knew what the track was about. And it's a tight track for these cars. Are fast for this track, so it's a lot of work, and but it's a lot of fun. I'm really impressed by the car, and you know, I've never driven, you know, a front engine car like this in this type of conditions, and I'm surprised at how balanced the car is, and it's very smooth on the power and very quick, and brakes are amazing, and it's been, you know, been a real joy, and it's great to just show it to people that it can do this. You know, I hope to run in the top 3 right around there. You know, I just want to put on a good show and be competitive and stay safe, and hopefully, you know, roll the car back into the trailer at the end of the day. But I'm very competitive. I know how I'll be out there, and I'll be trying as hard as I can.
He is very competitive, and he happens to be an incredibly good water skier. Happened to stumble on him water skiing on a little tourist trip to Lake Mead once when he's at home in Henderson, Nevada, and he is competitive, and he shows it right here. Meanwhile, we got some great battling going on a little bit behind those guys as we hop on board with Connie Bogan, currently running in the 11th spot. Oh, nice move!
Runs down the outside of journalist Stephen Cole-Smith, giving him something to write about. This is a motivated lady, Connie Bogan. She and her husband have been doing Viper Days events for a number of years now. Now she's at the very top level, racing in the Dodge Viper Cup. She just loves this car, but she's hung on to her old car, and they're developing a bit of a collection of Viper race cars, and why not? What's better than a Dodge Viper race car? 2 Dodge Viper race cars.
Absolutely. Well, this acr-x, I mean, this series with this car is a great progression, isn't it? If you start off in the Viper League and in the Viper Club racing, this gives you a real opportunity to step up to something special and really see if you've got it.
Yeah, real prize money, real TV, and the whole works. So it's great to keep it all within the Dodge Ladder family, and Viper Days are, you know, there's 12 or 15 of them a year, and man, they always are a lot of fun to be at. On board with Richie Hearn one more time as he's trying to turn the tumblers on this lock a little bit, see if he can get by and get onto the podium that he predicted.
I'll tell you what, Verges has to be pretty happy looking in his rearview mirrors and seeing a former IndyCar pilot behind him, and he's been able to fend him off for a few laps now, and as a matter of fact, he's actually opened up about a 2 to 3 car length gap, at least in certain spots on the track, and it looks like they might be reeling in Keating. I think the pace of their little battle here is closing in on Ben Keating.
Keating actually having some overheating problems early on. We get that from his pits and the radio through race control. He's falling back into their clutches. And of course, the farther he comes back, the more clean air is going to get in there. There's newcomer A.J. Morgan kind of burst onto the Dodge Viper Cup scene, and he's been very impressive. early on, we talked to him. They're running a borrowed trailer, just him and his dad and a couple pals of theirs coming in to run Dodge Viper Cup, and they may have been just a little bit optimistic, you know, as they came in now, getting a good run from Connie Bogan as that AJ Morgan car starting to back off just a little bit.
Boy, and Connie is absolutely on the fly right now. Once she picked off that first pass, and it didn't take her long at all to run AJ Morgan down, so Connie is on the move.
Stephen Cole Smith's view from in behind the two of them. Now Cole Smith has an opportunity to re-engage and do a little bit of racing and not just writing about it. Good for him.
Absolutely. There's Connie, there's AJ Morgan, and Stephen Cole Smith, as you point out, behind them. And Connie, boy, once she got in front of that move, she's now able to draw away solidly in the top 10, sitting in 9th. But it's Shims, Keating, and Burgess still your top 3.